No. Oh dear, pause. No. Okay, am I recording? Yes, carry on.
Okay, so we found one study that followed 3,700 women and 1,800 men, and they found that men were more likely to overeat, where women were likely to endorse loss of control while eating, which can include things like binge eating and then fasting and vomiting. We also found that along with eating disorders, men were more likely to have depression. There's a significantly or a significant more amount of men that experience depression, 67% compared to women, 43% with eating disorders. And lastly, we found that women had elevated scores on all the factors except for excessive exercise, which men had significantly higher scores. So we figured that from this data that men were more likely to be trying to build their muscle mass up, whereas women were trying to lose weight.
So yeah, that's all true. I think one of the things we said when I was in your group is that for men it's more about muscle and building muscle, whereas with it getting bigger, whereas with women it's about getting smaller. Although there are women who lift weights, unless women are taking hormones, we don't have the testosterone to ever have that kind of body. So it's not like women should be afraid to lift weights, but it's when it's taken to an extreme. And that's the concern, is that people take it to an extreme. But with men, it's about muscle dysmorphia, that the body that they see is not the body that the rest of the world sees. A friend of mine, she has a son who the family was invited, they were taking a family trip to Alaska. And I think he's 17 and their daughter went with him. He didn't want to go because she couldn't guarantee that he would have a place to go to every day to work out. He turned down a trip to Alaska because he wasn't going to be able to work out every day. And I invited them over here one night. I forget, it was for a holiday, but he didn't come because it was his fast day. And that there's some issues there. And this is when I say, is it my job to talk to her? Well, a couple of us got together and talked to her, but we had a little, what are you sharing? Rob, are you having a beer? No, it is after 5 somewhere. But it's just, you know, so with men, it's more of a building muscle. And I would look at, I have it posted, the video that I usually show in class of the gentleman who was a male model and what happened to him as he fell into the depths of a disorder and ultimately died. Yeah. Okay. Group 2. Why would someone develop the female athletic triad or the other eating disorder associated with sport? Hello. Who was in group 2?
We said, so the triad is when you lose energy, you have menstrual problems, and then it's like lack of bone or like bone deficiencies. And we talked about how that's because it's like more calories out than there are in for female athletes or sometimes even male athletes. And for females, this occurs because the estrogen is produced by like fat. So if you're not getting enough fat from working out, then you're not able to menstruate.
Right. So with women, the osteoporosis is a loss of bone of density in the bones that leads to fracture. It's something that is more common in postmenopausal women. Oops, lost Colin again. Wait a second. Muted. Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Hello? Are you hearing me? Okay. My button said something weird. So what happens with women is that as they decrease their calorie intake, they aren't getting the nutrients that they need to maintain bone health, but they also are drawing on their fat stores. And you need a certain amount of body fat in order to produce estrogen. And estrogen helps maintain bone density. And in the absence of adequate nutrients and estrogen, women stop menstruating and they lose bone density. That's where amenorrhea and poor nutrition lead to osteoporosis. Osteoporosis being a condition that we see in postmenopausal women who have insufficient bone stores and are no longer menstruating. The other condition is something else because men are also, the hormone levels are affected, not in the same way with women in terms of losing bone density, but in terms of developing nutrient deficiencies, because there is a pressure on men in sport. And I think, did I ask your group, what are some particular types of sports that are affected by eating disorders?
Yeah, we talked about wrestlers.
Wrestlers.
Um,
How about female sport or female activities?
Like gymnastics.
Gymnastics, ballet, right. There's a real pressure on these folks. Yeah. Okay. What is clean eating and why is that a thing?
Clean eating is like a new fad diet, and basically it's more geared towards less processed foods or like less fattening foods and getting the right nutrients, I guess. The reason it's kind of risky is because certain people can become obsessed with eating the right thing, that they're kind of like messing with their appetite and could lead to an eating disorder called orthorexia,
Yeah.
which is like the obsession of like basically tracking your calories, tracking your nutrients, like what you're eating, and like and scrutinizing yourself can just lead to a lot of pressure.
Do you know anybody who talks about clean eating and won't eat certain foods because it's not clean? I mean, what is a clean food? Besides, for me, one that hasn't been on the floor for more than 10 seconds.
But like for me personally, I don't like to eat like chips and like Pop-Tarts that can be like held on the shelf for like a year and be fine. Like
Okay.
I'd rather, but like that's basically about it. Like I would rather not eat those things like often.
And I think that's perfectly fine and perfectly legitimate, but but how does that, why would that be clean or unclean? I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. What is this whole issue with clean and unclean food?
I guess the unclean is like not really, well, I guess it's because you never really know what's in food, but not knowing what's in like the more quote unquote processed foods.
Well, do you remember when we talked about dihydrogen monoxide?
Yeah.
So that's a chemical. I think we have to remember that it's the dose that makes the poison. That if you eat processed packaged foods, it's balance over time that's going to have an effect on your health. That if you like to eat chips or you like to eat Pop-Tarts, that's fine. It shouldn't make up a majority of your diet, but you already know that. And if it does, that's something that you may want to work on.
Yeah.
I've come to the opinion that emotional health is just as important as physical health. And I need to work with people on both of those issues. It's when people start focusing on the physical act of eating only certain types of food to the loss of their social or emotional health, that's when it's dangerous. So and then I do think that clean eating, and the next group that I want to talk to, group 4, about orthorexia, I think that concerns me with your demographic. I know that there are issues of anorexia and bulimia with your demographic, but I think that orthorexia and clean eating is sort of a social media sanctioned eating disorder. Those of you who had the 4th question, what do you think? What can you tell me about orthorexia?
I think it'd be something, well, I mean, we already said like what it is.
Okay.
It can get to be like pretty severe, like even physically, because you can have malnutrition. And it said like on the site I looked at that your BMI could lower to someone who has anorexia. I feel like it's a very slippery slope because you might start a diet to start clean eating and you get obsessed and then you're determined and you want to get to this specific number or whatever it is. And I just feel like it's a downhill kind of thing.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think with eating disorders, they often start off with you trying to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
A bulimic, my sister who had bulimia for 13 years, she finally, and this is only in the last 2 years, disclosed to me that she became bulimic after she'd had a stomach virus for a couple days when she was 12 or 13 and saw she could lose weight, and that was an easy way to lose weight. but over time it began to control her. And that's what happens. You start off thinking you're in control, but then these behaviors control you. And that's the danger. And she will tell you to this day that her dental bills are enormous. Can anybody tell me why somebody who has bulimia would have high dental bills?
Because she'd be vomiting a lot.
And the acid in the vomit wears away at the enamel on the teeth. Right. She's lucky she didn't suffer from something called esophageal rupture, that the acid didn't cause her esophagus to rip apart. Yeah. So it's where somebody starts off thinking that they're in control, and it's this kind of obsession with clean eating, and any kind of obsession over time, when it interferes, you don't go out with your friends, you don't go out with your family because you might not get the food you like, it might not have the things that you need. That to me is problematic. And we still have, okay. So for group 5, normal eating. What can you tell me about normal eating?
Yeah, so we just went through the different statements. And the first one was giving thought to nutrition, but not being too restrictive. We agreed with that. We definitely thought it's important to think about kind of what you're putting into your body, but never to kind of, unless you have a condition, not be too restrictive and kind of allow yourself to be free when it comes to that. The second one was giving yourself permission to eat because you're happy or sad. We thought as a group, it's like nutritionally, it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but it's hard to avoid as kind of most people do this, I guess. And I mean, that was kind of just like a general one. We didn't really know if there was more to that question, but
Can I? May I? So
Yeah.
with the happy eating when you're happy or sad, it's because people tend to feel guilty afterwards when they use food for emotional reasons. I mean, we have lots of different kinds of hungers. We're hungry for I don't know, for music. We're hungry for lashing out at somebody. We're hungry for attention, but we tend to feed all our different hungers with food. So it would be helpful to be able to distinguish what the different hungers are and to feed them appropriately, whether it's with a bath. I'm not recommending punching somebody out because you're angry, but trying to find appropriate ways. But if in the event that you still feed it with your hunger with food, that you don't feel guilty about it. It's this concept of cheating that leads to guilt, which is why I know I can't get y'all to change your cheat day philosophies, but if you could but just change it to treat, call it a treat day, there's just a whole different association with it. And it's the guilt that's associated with eating for reasons that you don't think are right, that you then feel that you have to starve yourself and make up for bad behaviors. And that's not correct. You're not a bad person because you overate. I had a patient, I used to do weight loss groups, and I would go around. You start off at the beginning where you say, well, how are you? And this woman said, well, I was bad. Oh, I asked her, did you shoot somebody? No. Did you rob a bank? No. What did you do? I had cake at my nephew's birthday party. Why is that bad? What's wrong with that? Anyway, go on, carry on.
Yeah, so the next one we covered was normal eating is mostly 3 meals a day or 4 or 5 or munching along the way. We kind of decided as a group that munching along the way is not normal eating. But as far as meals go, kind of depends on your caloric intake, your level of activity, and other factors like you may be having. It honestly just depends on your activity, we thought. And also there was one overeating at times and undereating at times. We thought as a group, we thought this happens pretty naturally based on how hungry you are, what meal it is, kind of if you're extremely busy, you need a quick, smaller lunch, something like that. We also, another one was trusting your body to make up for mistakes and balancing it. We agreed to an extent, but you can't expect yourself, like, if you eat 10,000 calories, you can't really expect your body to be able to handle that and balance it. We kind of just thought to an extent that was true, but there are definitely limitations on that.
I think that if somebody's eating 10,000 calories, yeah, that you're right. I think that's a binge, a pretty severe binge.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one was it'll take up some of your time and attention. but it's only one important area of your life. So that, I guess we were thinking about like they were talking about like nutrition, thinking about nutrition, thinking about kind of what you're eating, thinking about your diet, your normal eating patterns. We agreed that it's extremely important, even though it'll obviously take up some of your time to think about it. But we agree in that nutrition and eating habits are extremely important to think about, and it's definitely worth your time.
So yeah, but to keep in mind that it's just one piece of your life, that when it starts overtaking your life, then you're losing a piece of who you are. Anorexics think about food 110% of the time. What does that mean when I say 110%? They dream about it. The idea that food is just part of your life. You know, you have friends, you have family, you have other things going on in your life besides food. Food is part of it. It shouldn't be food and then everything else. It should be all these other things and then food is a part of it. And it's learning how to balance those that's important. So that's what I wanted you to try to get from that. So we have, okay. So what I want to do is put you back into groups, because I find that you may talk better amongst yourselves in a smaller group, and take out your collages and just kind of highlight what some of the things are that you had in your collages. Okay. I don't know that you wind up in the same groups because oh, well, yeah, go back to your room. That's signed Colin. Somebody's already left. Eric. There you go. Why do I have such a low hair? Well, that's one thing. Tell me about your collages, folks.
We were all just saying that we basically got, advertisements from billboards, magazines, stuff on the internet, and obviously wrote a little summary about it, assignment. Specifically for me, I found that there was definitely, ads on both ends from the media that kind of reflected an ideal body size or shape that is kind of, unrealistic, and that can definitely influence people's self-esteems on each end. Like we said, it's not just girls that have to deal with this. It's also guys as well. So just not great overall.
I found with mine that like a lot of my advertisements attributed like one certain product to the way a person looked. And I found like that was super unrealistic. Like there was a guy holding pills that made him not crave sugar, and he had like massive muscles, and he was saying like I wouldn't look like this if it wasn't for these pills. And
Yeah.
obviously like he works out.
Right. If it sounds too good to be true. Yeah. Steve, what did you find in your collage?
I found like a lot of magazine covers, and I just kind of saw like, I don't know, kind of like a lot of unrealistic like looking people, like guys and women that were just kind of like had bodies that you wouldn't really see ordinarily, and they made it seem like, I don't know, it was just like an average look.
An average look. Yeah. Sunil, what did you put in your collage?
I just put in a lot of the social media advertisements, and I think I also put in the comments because, like, from some of the health posts, because some of them were like terrible. So I just put it in there.
Do you think that media has an effect on the development of eating disorders?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just by the presence of it, like you sometimes feel pressured to keep up a what media defines as a good appearance, and even if you do, there's always going to be like negative comments.
Mm.
So I feel like you just never feel satisfied.
Wow, for some reason, Chris, you just came up in my screen. What do you have to say?
I found like a before and after of a model, of like a model's picture that they put on the cover of a magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed like how it was edited from like how she actually looked into like what they actually put on the magazine. It just was like ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
her arms were like toothpicks and stuff, so it wasn't. It was totally fake.
Do you think the media follows or leads when it comes to these kinds of things, when it comes to styles and?
Oh, they follow. I think like once like someone makes a trend, like they're just gonna hop on that and just try to ride till it dies, and then try to find another trend to pick up on.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go look in on another group, so I'll see you back in class. All right, what did you folks come up with? What did you learn from your assignment?
You want to go, or you want me, or Fad, you want to go?
Yeah, we learned how these magazines are able to like kind of portray an ideal image and set that within like certain people, and like it can have negative effects on certain individuals. We all kind of agreed upon that.
Yeah,
Steven,
like
you go.
like I know in mine, like I had almost had a tough time finding stuff that was not like an ideal image, which was almost like obviously it was like helpful for the assignment to like be looking for things that kind of represented that, but at the same time it was like it would have been hard to find a lot of stuff that wasn't like portrayable as like either ideal or seeking perfection or something maybe that could plant a seed of doubt in like a person's head.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy, but.
Do you think the media follows or leads these kinds of trends? And
both.
Both. I don't know. I don't get out much, so but that's why I have you doing this, so that I can see what's out there. And it's interesting for me to see that Ralph Lauren picture with the skinny woman, I don't know if any of you had that, is still out there, because she doesn't even look like that. But yeah, that photoshopping plays a huge role in design, and I think it sets up unrealistic expectations, and I worry about vulnerable people who don't have a good sense of self, but I also worry about kids who now are crazy on social media and what they see and how it affects them. All right, I'm gonna go check another room. Please go back to class when you're ready, and we'll meet back there. Thank you. All right, I'm thinking you're having in-depth discussions.
So, yeah, we had some pretty some pretty different ideas for the collages.
Okay.
I kind of did like one based on like how pretty much every magazine model has the like heavy contour look on their like upper cheekbone and stuff like that, and that like very toned skinny face look might have like some negative effects on body image. And then yeah, a couple others.
Anybody else have any comments about their collages?
Yeah, I did something a little different. So I like kind of photoshopped and drew stuff. When I was thinking of like what I wanted to put in it, I feel like I could think of so many things, and so I kind of want to represent like that everyday life that's kind of all around us.
Okay.
So I have it on my phone. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it too well, but I drew like someone holding a phone with like a it was like a morning tummy juice thing recipe, I don't know, and then like a table with like 4 magazines that had like headlines that was, one was like clean eating, and then the other was like 50 ways to better your skin, or like just changing like your body. Then I had like a weight loss commercial on the TV, and then like a billboard like out the window. And it says like summer is coming, and there's like a picture of like a washed up seal. So it was just like kind of weird things. And then like I kind of drew it, so like it was like a room.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
Yeah, I
things
see.
around us. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, we don't have that much time. So I'm just going to pop in the other two rooms, go back to class, to the classroom, and I'll meet you in a couple minutes. I just want to go over what's coming up. So
sounds good.
Hey, Michael, you're in my main frame here. So what did you folks get from your assignment, from your collages?
We basically just like said how everything like that you see in the media is just not accurate. And like, cause like I was telling them about like this one example I saw that said like lose 90 pounds eating pizza all day, and it said it was sponsored by like NBC and CNN, and it's like even though like these like networks might have featured this, like that just can't be right, and it's not reliable.
I hope so. Yeah. Anybody else have any epiphanies? Okay, so, what I'm going to do is ask you to go back to the room, wherever. I just want to go over what we're going to do next week. I'm just going to go into the last group, and then I'll just come in and kind of summarize.
They would get it. I'm not gonna. I don't know what
I left after like 10 minutes. How you doing, Professor?
All right, what I'm just going to do is ask, what did you discuss about your collages? What did you folks feel like the assignment, how it might have enriched you, helped you learn about media and the development of eating disorders? Does media have an influence on eating disorders? Does media follow, or does it lead trends?
Yeah, so what we did, a couple of us just like talked about what we were doing, showed our collages, and then kind of described how each picture in the collage affected us.
Okay.
I know for mine, what I found is that like a lot of these like publicity magazines, they were like People magazine. There's one that I found it's In Touch magazine, which is another one of those like gossip magazines.
Yeah.
And it was like best and worst beach bodies, like rating celebrities based on their weight. Like it's just crazy to me that like people allowed that to happen in the first place, but also that like people actually pay attention to that. And it's also, I just think it's obviously not fair to rate someone because on their body basically because like, you don't know what they're going through. Like one of the magazines I used was like Star magazine, and it was a picture of Kim Kardashian, and it was like 65-pound weight gain and pregnancy nightmares, which is just like who are you to judge like what she looks like after having a child? Like who cares if she gained weight? Like it's just crazy because I don't know. I feel like these people are very like powerful. Like even the celebrities are really powerful, and it's just I don't know. I feel like nowadays that could just not happen. That like just shouldn't happen because kind of people are starting to recognize that's less acceptable now. And then I found some men's ones where they were like building the ultimate physique, and it was just so like not realistic at all. It's like a ripped guy with like 4% body fat. Like they called him fit, which is just like he's not fit. He's like extremely in shape and like jacked. So it puts a lot of pressure on like the younger generations to look a certain way.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't bode well. But we have other things to be concerned about right now as well. All right, why don't we go back to the class, to the room? I'm just going to kind of summarize and then talk about what's coming up for next week. Okay, so I'll see you in the main room, main session. Everybody back? All right, I'm gonna share. Thank you very much for your participation today. I'm gonna have office hours on Tuesday because I can, because what else am I doing? So if you want to come in, if you want to continue the discussion, if you want to, thank you, Fuad, for your TV show recommendations. Mike, if you have any other bad jokes, I would love to hear them. Although I have to tell you that I did share it with a friend of mine who didn't understand it and then posted on Facebook. During the next 30 days, I will only be telling inside jokes. So
I didn't get any joke creds.
I gave them to you when I talked to him.
Okay, fair,
All
fair.
right. So I want to share my screen with you and just talk to you about what's coming up next week. Let's see. So next week we have heart disease, folks. This is a popcorn session. There's lots of videos because this is a class that I usually take at least 2 or 3 days to go over because I really like this stuff. I'm not sure how we're gonna handle it this time around. Oh, but first of all, please send me your assignments if you hadn't. There's the video, a video that I have posted. Within this video, I have things that say stop and watch. So stop and watch 1, stop and watch 2. These are linked to 2 Khan Academy videos about the heart. They do a much better job than I do, and since I don't have a whiteboard to draw on, during this class, I also show you another Discovery Channel video. Remember, we looked at a video on infection and immunity, the woman who had the flu. This is the same group. So this is a guy who has a heart attack because, of course, we're going to have a heart attack. So this covers a lot of what I go over in the videos, and then there's just a lot. So, you know, take your time. We aren't going to go through them or have questions about them till next Thursday, but there's a lot that I ask of you for this because it's a really excellent topic. They're all excellent. Of course, it's the most important information I've ever had. But yeah, so that's for next week. So Tuesday I will be around from 2 to 4, I think I said. So drop in if you have a chance. And other than that, does anybody have any questions before we go? All right. See you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.